Demand for abortion in Kansas skyrocketed by 58% during 2023 in response to near total bans on the procedure in Missouri and Oklahoma and strict limits in other Midwest states. The Kansas Department of Health and Environment reported that Kansas documented 7,849 abortions in 2021. However, the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to strike down Roe v. Wade and the 2019 Kansas Supreme Court's opinion that women had a state constitutional right to terminate a pregnancy were factors in the rise in Kansas abortions to 12,319 in 2022. And the Kansas Department of Health and Environment said Kansas's total of abortions substantially escalated in 2023 to 19,467. In 2022, non-residents received 8,475 abortions, and the number of out-of-state patients reached 15,111 in 2023, though passage of a Missouri constitutional amendment in November to reestablish reproductive freedom could have an influence on non-resident abortions in Kansas during 2025. In terms of Kansas residents, last year's 4,356 abortions was an increase of 512 from 2022. In 2019, the Kansas Supreme Court held the state's Bill of Rights contained the right to control one's own body and exercise self-determination. The justices said this fundamental state right included decisions about pregnancy, and soon after the reversal of Roe v. Wade in 2022, Kansas voters overwhelmingly rejected a proposed amendment to the Constitution that would have opened the door to more strict abortion laws. In 2024, the Kansas State Supreme Court struck down anti-abortion statutes included in the ban on a second semester procedure and laws regulating abortion providers more aggressively than other health professionals. Under current standards, an abortion in Kansas may be performed up to 22 weeks of pregnancy. In 2024, Nebraska voters inserted a 12-week ban into its state constitution. Iowa enforces a 6-week ban, and Missouri and Oklahoma have been prohibiting abortion except to protect individuals from life-threatening situations. On Thursday, Governor Kelly announced that the Kansas Office of Broadband Development will begin accepting applications on February 3, 2025, for funding from the National Telecommunications Information and Administration, or NTIA, Digital Equity Capacity Grant Program, and there will be a total of $8.2 million available in funding. Governor Kelly said this state digital equity capacity grant will enable them to continue expanding internet access to all Kansans, and thanks to the Digital Equity Act, these funds will empower more Kansans to fully leverage the power of technology and thrive in the digital connected economy. The program promotes partnerships to enhance digital opportunity efforts and expand workforce skills, education, and other resources. And while applicants are encouraged to develop new and innovative strategies, the program targets projects in areas that include digital skills, e-government and civic engagement, device distribution programs, economic development, online access to health and mental wellness services, online accessibility, and access to affordable broadband service. Applications will be open from February 3rd to April 3rd, 2025. Eligible entities that are encouraged to apply include community organizations, educational institutions, tribal nations, and local government agencies. To learn more about the efforts of the Kansas Office of Broadband Development, you can visit kansascommerce.gov/Office of Broadband Development. This time of year marks the period when vehicle-deer collisions increase, and Kansas roadways are no exception. So that's why the Kansas Highway Patrol, the Kansas Department of Transportation, the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, the Kansas Turnpike Authority, and AAA Kansas offer helpful tips to assist drivers as they navigate Kansas roadways, including what to do if motorists have a collision with a deer. While the vast majority of vehicle-deer collisions don't result in serious injury, data collected by the Kansas Department of Transportation indicates that in 2023, 7 people were killed and 658 were injured in collisions involving deer. To avoid incurring costly vehicle repairs or worse, state experts have offered some helpful safety tips that includes to be especially watchful at dawn and dusk when the deer are more active. If you see one deer, you should expect others, as deer seldom travel alone. Be extra vigilant and reduce vehicle speeds near wooded areas or green spaces, such as parks and golf courses, and near water sources, such as streams and ponds. Deer crossing signs show areas where high numbers of vehicle-deer collisions have occurred in the past, so be extra cautious in these areas. Don't swerve to avoid hitting a deer because the most serious crashes can occur, as this could cause you to potentially lose control of your vehicle, leave the road, or veer into oncoming traffic. And always wear a seatbelt and use appropriate child safety seats, as these are the best defense in any collision. Motorists are reminded that you can always remain safe as possible in your vehicle by staying alert, slowing down, and eliminating distractions while driving. In Nebraska news, authorities arrested a man on Wednesday for threatening and brandishing a handgun at a person at the Hastings College campus. Hastings police reported that 24-year-old Marcus Rice entered a Hastings College dorm building on Wednesday looking for someone he had an issue with, and he began knocking on doors looking for that person. However, he didn't find them, and he left the building. Authorities said Rice then saw the alleged person in a window, removed a handgun from his clothing, and began threatening the person, but he didn't fire any shots. Rice left the Hastings College campus and turned himself in to the Adams County Sheriff's Office later that day, and he was arrested on charges of terroristic threats, use of a weapon to commit a felony, and having a firearm on school property. He was booked into the Adams County Jail. However, he posted 10% of a $50,000 bond for his release. Rice is scheduled to appear in court for his first hearing on January 23rd. Nebraska firefighters spent an hour battling a blaze in Hastings on Thursday night. Fire crews responded to a house fire near East 4th Street and North California Avenue in Hastings at about 7:30 p.m. on Thursday night, according to the Hastings Fire and Rescue. They brought it under control at about 8:30 p.m. The fire department said the house was under construction, which made it harder to fight the fire, and everyone was evacuated with no one being injured. According to the fire department, all utilities were shut off before the blaze, and the Hastings Rural Volunteer Fire Department also responded to the fire. Officials reported that the cause is still under investigation. 2 people were injured in an accident just after 6:30 p.m. on Thursday in Ellis County. The Kansas Highway Patrol reported that a 2025 GMC Terrain, driven by 74-year-old Judith K. Smith of Hayes, was northbound on US 183, approximately 1.5 miles south of Hayes, when the SUV struck a deer that had run onto the road. EMS transported Smith, a passenger in the vehicle, 78-year-old Leslie E. Smith of Hayes, to Hayes Medical Center, and both were properly restrained according to the Kansas Highway Patrol. One person was injured in an accident during a pursuit by law enforcement just after 10 p.m. on Friday in Thomas County. The Kansas Highway Patrol reported that a Thomas County Sheriff's deputy attempted to stop a 2008 Ford Mustang that was driven by 16-year-old Nerlin Y. Arriago of Colby for drag racing. The teen driver failed to yield and began driving at a high rate of speed eastbound on College Drive in Colby and continued onto County Road R. The driver lost control of the car just east of County Road 23 at around 105 miles per hour, and the car slid sideways into the north ditch, rolled, and came to rest on its top. EMS transported Arriago to Citizens Medical Center. He was not wearing a seatbelt, according to the Kansas Highway Patrol.